So you said that the Bay Bucks have been kind of a slow start.
Mm-hmm.
How long has it been? Ithaca hours have been around for a little while, haven't they,
Yeah.
compared to the Bay Bucks?
Yeah, I think at least a decade or more. Baybucks is about, I would say, 4 years old. We issued about 4 years ago. I mean, it took a few years of discussion to get to the point of issuing them, and for other communities interested in this as a possibility, I think that the homework is crucial, and you have to sort of get into monetary theory a little bit and learn the history of other local currencies and alternative monies, because it's more extensive than you might imagine. I mean, Michigan during the Depression had hundreds of local monetary instruments, if that's the right term. I mean, when cash is out of the system, as it was in the 30s, people still need to engage in economic exchange and have to denominate it somehow. So there were Traverse City issued a demurrage currency. That's a deflating currency that.
So it's worth less after a few weeks or months or whatever?
Right. Exactly. You have to purchase a stamp to maintain its value. And so what it does is to give an incentive to the holder to keep spending it. And the effect of such currencies can be to, pump a lot of money back in to the local system, to revitalize a local economy. But as you know, because I know you do have a keen interest in sort of the morality of money and all that it connotes, and that is so important to sort of restore the kind of moral dimension to exchange and to diversify it. I mean, other cultures and throughout time have had lots of different ways of lots of different customs for ordaining exchange. Not in markets, out of markets, gift exchange, sacred exchange, sort of secular exchange, and that all sort of restores meaning and richness to the economy, and also, makes it possible for there to be some areas of life that aren't completely fungible. I mean, some parts of life should not have monetary value attached, ever. But the sort of monopoly of money and the monopoly on our imaginations of economics has kind of reduced everything to integers that are interchangeable, and this kind of circles back to learning from nature and trying to emulate nature. I think homogenization is death. Uniformity is death, and so diversifying the spirituality and morality and practicality of our economic activities, I think, would be quite desirable. It would, just require us to think a lot more about what we're doing when we engage in exchange, and also what local currencies do that can be very valuable is, indicate some boundaries. I mean, where the utility of the local currency ends, say for a retailer who can't obtain certain products, that indicates an opportunity, possibly for an entrepreneurial opportunity, and it also, I guess, can help indicate, a kind of an economic boundary too, or a kind of a moral boundary in the sense of telling you that in order to carry on this particular business, you really have to go and reach into other people's bioregions for things and bring them back. Or you may have to go to the other side of the planet for cheap labor, as you so eloquently explained in your presentation at the earlier conference. So local currencies can have the effect of sort of setting a boundary and causing, I mean, this is extremely idealistic. This is what we hope local currencies do. I mean, they don't have to do all of this to be valuable by any means. This is just the kind of, interest and philosophical dimension that's available. But when your local currency stops being useful for the purchase of certain things that you may think that you require in your bioregion, it sort of raises the question, do we really need this? Is there an opportunity for local substitution for this? Would there be another way to meet this need? Now, a classic instance might be, and it's very germane to the upcoming conference, petroleum. So far as I know, Exxon's not willing to deal in bay bucks, but still locally we have a huge dependency on oil. Well, what if we could, one thing we discussed, it hasn't borne fruit, but if maybe bay bucks could float alone, because we were constituted to do not interest-bearing, but fee-based loans to a local biodiesel entrepreneur. And that would mean that biodiesel people were sort of in the mentality of local currency. Maybe people could purchase biodiesel with bay bucks. Maybe these biodiesel entrepreneurs would be willing to accept a portion of their compensation in bay bucks and go, patronize the local farmers, or maybe purchase one of the feedstocks they were thinking about was canola, So, but as I sketch this out, I'm illustrating one of the challenges of local currency, which is you really have to articulate connections within the local economic system, and it means brokering or establishing relationships, encouraging relationships, and keeping after them. It's a community organizing proposition, basically.
Before we wrap up on local currencies, is there a book, if there was just one book for people to read about local currencies and maybe about how to get one started, but maybe one that just talked more about these stories from the past about successful local currencies and what's happened in past times where local currency was needed? Do you have a book recommendation?
I don't believe such a book exists. A great resource is the E.F. Schumacher Society, and they have a really voluminous website. It's www.smallisbeautiful.org. There are handfuls of books on the subject from different, sort of particular slants. I think that Tom Greco's writing on this subject is very good, and I believe one of his titles is called New Money for Healthy Communities. There may be a more recent book from Tom, but it's a very good introduction to this subject. But so far as I know, but nobody's really pulled together a good history of this particular, facet of alternative economics.
So an opportunity for someone.
Yeah.